Thank you. We can start. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us and sharing this part of your day and this important project and committee. Okay, let's do this. Welcome today. This is January 27, and this is our third meeting of the City of Portland, third full meeting of the City of Portland Police Accountability Commission. It is my pleasure to be here among you, and we are ready to start. We have some logistics announcements like we have every time. Let me get to them. Okay. Okay, you all are as panelists. We're gonna start, we have the slide deck ready. We are going to start with the translation in Spanish and the closed captioning, and we already start recording. Then we can call to order. We are going to call this meeting at 5:34 on January 27, and this is a meeting of the City of Portland's Police Accountability Commission. Okay, let's go to slide 2. For the people that speak Spanish, voy a decir algo en español. Para la gente que habla español, tenemos la interpretación disponible para que ustedes puedan entender y escuchar en español el meeting y las opiniones y lo que se comparta. Entonces, si tienen alguna pregunta de cómo usar este sistema en Zoom, por favor, manden un mensaje para poderles ayudar. Subject to City Administrative Code and conducted under the provisions of Oregon Public Meeting Law, this is a public meeting in order. We're gonna have, as we always have, the Zoom chat function. Chat transcript will be included in meeting record for this meeting. And we also have the Zoom and questions and answer function. Is for questions only, not to comment. Not all questions will be answered. If answered, both questions and responses will be included in meetings records for this meeting. Other relevant questions will be included in agenda planning for future meetings of the PAC. Thank you. Okay. As you can see in the slides, we are in the January to March 2022 process, and this is the organizational phase. One subcommittee develops a community engagement framework for the commission. Another subcommittee develops bylaws and other governing documents. And these two subcommittees have been working since the start of the year. Full PAC approves subcommittee work when they are ready and establish values and principles and a scope of agenda for the remainder of the 18 months time frame. That's what our meeting today main topic is. Thank you. The next slide, please. And Thursday, January 27, this is the third meeting of the Police Accountability Commission, the full commission. If the focus of this meeting is the values and principles, and then also agenda setting and scoping is the secondary focus. And the next 2 weeks, we have Commission Community Building event, third meeting of the PAC subcommittee on bylaws and internal process, and then considerably February and March, the continued meetings. The next, please. I will ask a staff of the PAC to explain this slide, please.
Thank you. Yes, this is the rough snapshot of the project plan for the organizational phase. It is no way set in stone. The individual agenda items are determined for each meeting. On the fly, it's better looked at as sort of the latest something might get done than when exactly it'll get done. Today's meeting is the one blue meeting outlined in yellow. And so each portion of this is mostly presented for the public to understand what is kind of going on during the organizational phase. And then as you can see, that last vertical blue box will lead into the next phase when we begin speaking about policing and police accountability issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. I want to introduce myself. My name is Victoria Lara. Again, it's an honor for me to be here. And I'm an immigrant. I came to United States more than 25 years ago. I'm a community advocate, a mom, a sister, a business owner. And I know that I have a heavy accent. Please, if you don't understand something that I say, let me know. Also, in my facilitation mode, I'm here to help you, to serve you, and to listen. But I will keep asking to people they haven't spoke. I may call your name because it's very important that everyone has a chance to express their opinions. You know, sometimes we need to stand up, sometimes we need to step back, because this is a work from everybody. And it is very important that you all have the time, the necessary time to express your opinion. There is no wrong and right answers because each of us have a very unique story and a way of thinking, and they're all necessary. Change is possible. I believe that, and I know you believe that because you are here. Let's review the agenda. We can set the agenda, please. This is the overview of today's meeting. First, we're gonna have the equity training led by Christine Moses of Buffalo Cloud Consulting. She's here. She will introduce herself. She's a facilitator that I admire and respect a lot, and we are blessed and lucky to have her here tonight with us. We also gonna focus on the PAC values and principles, review the city's core values, synopsis of the relevance of values and principles to the work of the PAC, and then a full discussion of what should be included in the PAC's values and principles list. Then we will pass to the PAC's scoping and agenda setting, review of the items the commission has been tasked with, including both required and optional PAC scopes of work. Following this, an open discussion about what should be included in the scope and commission members' views on the order of discussion items. And then we will have a subcommittee reports, feedback, co-chairs from the subcommittees on bylaws and internal process, and the subcommittees on community engagement process will briefly update the full commission on their subcommittee's progress. Any documentation they wish to present will be briefly discussed to allow for full commission feedback to be a part of the subcommittee's work before they finalize their work and send it back to the full commission at a future meeting for approval. And later, we also gonna have the parking lot area where you can add different topics or things that for some reason were not in the meeting. That way the co-chairs can have it and they can include it for future meetings. And with this, let me see, I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna pass it to Christine. Christine, now is your turn.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's really an honor to be here too. I absolutely cherish being able to work with Victoria. We've worked with other clients together, and it's fantastic to be here this evening. So Victoria, I'm going to ask you, do you mind sharing your screen? And if you don't mind doing that, if we can go to our community values, that would be fabulous. So today I'd like to spend time in these community values, in these community agreements, because I think they are absolutely crucial to being able to create something that's different than the norm, than what has always been done before. And in these agreements, we get to create, we get to collaborate, we get to co-create, and it gives us bumpers as a way to be able to move forward respectfully, allowing for all of the different lived experience that we bring into the room as 20 different commissioners. And so I would like a volunteer, pretty please, to read the first agreement. Tell me what comes up for you, and then pass it on to another person. So may I have a volunteer to read the first agreement for us?
Could you make it slightly bigger? Can you zoom in a little bit?
Seema?
Yes.
Victoria, down on the very bottom right-hand side is a little slider. Yeah, that maybe. Yes, there you go. Excellent. Yep. Thank you so much.
Peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Simab Husseini, he, him. And the first one is keep the needs and concerns of the local community and the larger region at the forefront of the work.
What does that mean to you?
It's bigger than yourselves and any potential interests we may have.
Thank you. Any other commissioners want to add their perspective to this agreement? Lovisa?
Yes, hello. What it brings to mind for me is the mandate given by the voters who approved this commission in the first place. Just keeping in mind that the reason that we're here is because many, many thousands of people voted for the work of this commission to go forward.
Beautiful. Thank you. Any other thoughts? All right, Seema, who is going next? Who would you like to call on?
I will pass it on to the next one on my screen, Connie.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi, I'm Connie. She, her pronouns. I'm sorry. I need a little update as to where we were. Was still coordinating some things here up until this point. So, are we just reading the agreements?
Yeah, we're on the second agreement. If you don't mind reading the second agreement and then telling us what that means to you.
Okay, so keep focus on the objectives of the meetings and individual agenda items. Utilize facilitators to note additional topics for discussion. So to me, we receive the agendas in advance. I think it's very important to utilize and use the agendas as a guide, and that you all as our facilitators are here to help and support keep the meeting and the topics on the agenda, and you make note for additional topics for later. So if things arise that we need to discuss that aren't on the agenda, then to sort of put a mark on them so that we can return to them later.
And Connie, if you don't mind, what does it mean to, I've seen in different places, be willing to be facilitated? What does that mean to you?
I think that the facilitators are here to provide an unbiased and somewhat unopinionated guide and support. And so allowing the facilitators to direct and, sort of move the conversation into certain areas is allowing and not creating any resistance to the facilitation, and allowing the discussion to stay on topic and on agenda and happen also in an organic fashion.
Thank you so very much. Any other comments around this particular agreement? Connie, who's going next? Oh, I see Dan's hand.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I had trouble with my hand raising button for some reason. I'm Dan Handelman. I'm one of the commissioners. I use he, him pronouns. I want to welcome the 18 people in the audience today. To me, one of the questions I have about this community agreement about keeping focus on the agenda is that in most organizations I'm in, we affirm the agenda before we move forward, and I think that would be something that would be a good way to make sure everybody's on board with the agenda before we agree that we're going to be facilitated through the agenda. So that's one of the questions I have about this, considering the agenda is not set collectively among the entire commission. So that's one of the things that this brings up for me when I read it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any other thoughts? Okay, Connie, who is going next?
I will pass on to Winta.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Winta. I use she, her pronouns. I raised my hand to comment on Dan's comment just now, to say that I agree. I think it's a good practice to make sure that the commission continues to feel full ownership over the agenda and how the meetings are facilitated. And then Christine, do you want me to go ahead and read the next one? Okay. So arrive on time and prepare to the best of your ability. I think that one is apparent, but we have limited time and a giant scope of work ahead of us. So being prepared and present will be important for our ability to do that.
Thank you so much, Winta. I appreciate that. I've received a message that we also want to define local community back in the first agreement. I want to put that in the parking lot as something at the end of this conversation, of this particular part of our conversation. So Winta, do you mind going forward and picking the next person to read the fourth item on our list?
Sure. Next on my screen, I see Catherine.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Catherine McDowell, and I use she, her pronouns. And the next one is let the group know if you're unable to attend a meeting. And again, I think that one is pretty self-explanatory. It does, for me, it brings to mind though the work we were doing in the subcommittee on the bylaws, where we were talking about really expecting, in part because of the large agenda and the limited scope of time we have to work on it, really having an expectation that folks do regularly attend the meetings and no longer remain on the commission if they're unable to do so and don't have an explanation for not being able to attend most of the meetings.
Thank you, Catherine. Any questions about this agreement? All right, Catherine, who is next?
I see Sophia next on my screen.
Wait 1 second. I'm not seeing hands raised, and so I apologize. Dan says, Greg, I see your hand up. There's a Q&A function if you want to post a question. Oh, okay. So Dan, I understand that you're kind of looking to the audience also. Thank you. Catherine, I apologize for interrupting. Just trying to make
No
the flow.
worries. No worries. I called on Sophia.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Keep multitasking to a minimum. And to me, that just means that, we need to really focus on what each other are saying so that we can all work together, keep a good understanding about what's going on so that we don't have to backtrack about the things that are coming up or have, to minimize misunderstandings and keep the progress of the meeting moving forward.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Any questions about this? Sophia, who should go next? You're on mute.
All right, I'm going down the list and seeing who's not been. Is it CMOB? Is he already went?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry. Let's do
No problem.
Charlie. Let's do Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
Hello. Unmuting there. I'm Charlie. Let's see, the next one, contribute to the overall success of the group by finding ways to participate that best meet your needs. And what that means to me is finding my strengths and fitting myself into those areas so that I could better contribute to the overall success of the group. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other thoughts about that agreement? It's a very important one, I think, because we're wanting to honor and celebrate your diversity as commissioners and your lived experiences and the ways that you move in the world. And being able to find ways that play to your strengths is really important. So, and meeting your needs, whether it is through American Sign Language or interpretation or other ways of being, it's very important that we meet those needs of you as commissioners as well as the community. Thank you so much. Who's next? Charlie, who do you want to pick to go next? If you, you're on mute.
Angie?
Thank you, Charlie. So is there any, the people are covering up my view of that slide. If you can move the slide just a little bit, that would be great. Once again, I'm sorry. My name is Angie Tomlinson. I am the co-chair with Sophia Glenn on this commission, and I go by she, her pronouns. Thank you everybody for being here tonight. And thanks everybody for all the work that we've been doing and that the public has also been doing for the last couple of weeks. It's been a lot of work, or a lot of good work. The next agreement is treat each other with respect and be supportive of, and I can't see the rest of it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Each other. Be
each other.
Yeah, of each other. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine. I appreciate that. So I think that this agreement has to do, or when I think about this agreement, I kind of feel like the way that we've been moving in this on our subcommittees and on this committee for the last month or so of really, letting each other speak and listening, trying to listen to the best of our abilities and taking in what others are saying, because we all have a piece of this work and we have different perspectives, and we have to make sure that we're respectful of everybody else's perspective. So.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next person would be on the list. Tirsa? I hope I said that correctly.
Yes, Tirsa. Hi, everyone.
Hi, thank you.
Tirsa Oriana, she, hers. And the next one is keep in mind that everyone has their own truth. And to me, this brings to mind, as how Christine was saying, and the previous one, contribute to the overall success of the group. I kind of see similarities there where we all have our lived experiences, and when we share those experiences and our knowledge, to believe each other and not question, not doubt, or belittle what we are sharing.
Beautiful. Yes, believe and reflect. Love that. Thank you so much. Who should go next? You get to pick. Tirsa.
Lovisa.
Okay, let's see. Are we on listen without agenda and refrain from interruptions?
Yes, we are.
Okay. That's a good one. We have agendas, which hopefully will keep us on task. I think listening without agenda, to me, it means listening to listen as opposed to listening to speak. And refrain from interruptions simply means respecting other people enough to allow them to complete their thought.
Beautiful. As a former reporter, dead air is very scary to me. As a facilitator, I'm loving it. I'm leaning into it. It's okay to have space, because then we can think clearly and we can count to 10 if we need to. Thank you so much. Who's next?
Has Charlie gone?
Yep.
Charlie has gone? Okay. Jason, would you like to go?
Hi, I'm Jason Renault. The item is listen without agenda and refrain from interruptions.
We just did that one.
Okay, be polite, courteous, and thoughtful.
Yes.
Is that the Boy Scout? Yeah, I agree. This is a great thing to just remember to sit back, and this is the action of being respectful, is be polite, be courteous, and be thoughtful. Thanks.
What does courteous mean to you?
It means recognizing that there are other people who are in the room and that they have their own style and own space and own way of speaking and relating. And you need to consider who they are in the relationship of the conversation rather than just, again, asserting your own agenda, pushing your own way through.
Beautiful. Thank you for that clarification. Really very, very helpful. Who should go next, Jason?
I'd like to hear from Ava.
Hi, thank you, Jason. My name is Eva Vega. I go as she, her pronouns. And the next is assume good intentions from our colleagues and collaborators, challenge ideas rather than individuals, approach different opinions with curiosity and seek to understand. To me, seeking first to understand means to truly listen to people. When you engage in conversation, it consists of listening with totality and an open mind. And, you know, just again, assuming good intentions, assuming that everyone, you know, again, has their own truth, respecting that we all come from a different place, and being open to other perspectives and different views, and not challenging individuals or their truths, but honoring their truths, and maybe challenging the idea instead of the individual.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Any other thoughts? Anybody else want to bring thoughts around that? I think this is a really important agreement. Active listening is so important, and I'm not, I think your commission will give you, all of us, lots of opportunity to learn that skill. Eva, who's next? You're on mute.
Connie?
I've already gone.
Oh, I apologize. Okay,
That's okay.
I'm so sorry. Has Dan gone? I know he had a question, but has he gone?
Well, I've already, I was kind of hoping May could, she's only on the phone. I'm hoping maybe she can, well, she can't read the stuff if she's on the phone. I'll tell May the next one, and I'll let her say what it means to her, because it says use I statements. So I would like to hear from May. That's what that means to me.
May, are you able to engage with us? Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Good evening, everybody. What was that statement again, Dan?
It says to use I statements. I was only sort of joking. I mean, obviously, you don't want to point the finger and say you at people. You just say I. This is how I feel. But I wanted to hear your opinion about what that agreement means to use I statements.
So I is letting others know where you're coming from, letting them look at the perspective of what you're saying. It takes away the finger pointing. It is also a sense of accountability and you taking responsibility for your own feelings and for your own understanding. I think the I statements or the usage of I is very powerful in many ways. Opens up a lot more lines of communication. It makes people feel comfortable, and it is just more proactive in working with others is using I. That's all I have to add.
May, thank you so much. Thank you very much for that. And I don't have a lot to add other than really speaking from the personal, local, and immediate. From your personal local experience is really critical. When you step in to saying you or we or they, you've now divorced yourself from taking accountability and responsibility, just like what May said. And so that's why I statements are so very powerful. Thank you so much, May.
And Christine, may I add something?
Yes.
It reduces, defensiveness or being offended as well, which could then shut down the whole conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. I think, Debbie, you may not have gone yet. Is that true?
You're right, I haven't gone yet. Okay, so affirm other speakers. Do not use violent words. Instead, say something positive about the previous speaker and simply add your own thoughts. So to me, this means that, once somebody speaks, you want to acknowledge that, you heard what they said and understood it. And obviously do not use violent words, means don't say terrible and violent things. And instead say something positive about the previous speaker. So you want to, reflect back what you heard that made sense to you or that you agree with, or just that you appreciate the fact that they express themselves well and that they are sharing their thoughts with you. And then the last part is, and then you can add your own thoughts to that afterwards.
Thank you. Any other people want to jump in on this one? All right, Debbie, who's going to go next?
Okay, so let's see.
I think everyone has gone.
Okay, good, because I can't see these. These
Yeah.
So should I just pick someone to go a second time? We can start back with CMOB, since he was the beginning.
Okay.
Somehow I knew this one was coming.
Sorry.
Respect privacy. Everything shared in confidence needs to be kept in confidence. I would actually admittedly like some help with this as a public commission member.
Yeah, there may be individual conversations that you have, right? But also, what we really want to bring forward, I think more than anything, is that there's high level learnings, high level experiences, high level observations that we want to really speak into the room, and that we may not need the extreme details, right, of potential harm that has been experienced. And so we want those big high level learnings. And there may be times when confidentiality is important. And what we need to do is to not speak. And I think this really goes to the next one, honor the decisions of the group, is to making sure that we are supporting the decisions of the group and then not undermining those decisions outside of the group and having those back channel conversations. That's how I read that. What do you think?
I understand that. I like that. It clears it up for me. Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome. Well, I just want to, oh yes, Catherine, please. Any questions, thoughts?
I just wanted to add that I think as a part of this, what's pretty important is to communicate to people that there is not a, this is not a environment where things can be held confidentially, that we are all subject to public records and transparency obligations. And so I think it's important, people won't understand that. I've certainly gotten a better understanding of it as I've been involved. So I do think to hold people's confidences, we may need to ask them not to share in a way that would require disclosure or end up with disclosure. So it's a way of, unfortunately, maybe stopping communication, but it's also that may be required to protect people's confidence in this context.
Thank you so much for that perspective. Anyone else?
Christine, I wanted to share too that for other public meetings, this especially also talks about not telling something out of context. Because yes, you are, this is a public meeting and there are some opinions and stories that make sense in the context of the conversation. But going outside and taking just one part of the conversation, of the opinion, of the story out of context can damage also the process of the meeting or process of the project. It also talks about that not taking a particular point that's part of all context out of the context just by itself.
I would like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Sophia.
I just wanted to add to that, both comments that, you know, we are individuals, and yes, we are public servants, but we do have private lives. And to ensure that we protect each other's private lives, that it's not in the context of what we do publicly and the work that we do for our community. I think we all need to be very cautious of that. I like my private life private, and if I'm sharing a story with you that has something to do with, to help you understand my opinion or my thoughts, that's personal, I would hope that you wouldn't be sharing that with a group or with the community. And it's just for me trying to explain where I'm coming from. So that may be helpful for some people too. It's just to remember that we all have private lives, and to don't be inappropriately using information that we provide in a private conversation that way. So I know there might be some people feeling a little odd about that, but you know, nobody wants their private life in the public. They just want to do their public service, and they want that to be public. So we don't want to keep our public service private. We want to keep it public, but we certainly want to keep our private lives private. So maybe that'll help with the understanding of the question as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. So I would like to give us a 5-minute break. Again, it is my honor to be here. I'm so excited that we're doing equity work as part of this commission meeting, as this full commission. And because we need to understand the words that we use, like equity and things like that. And we like having a definitions and understandings about the words that we're using and the agreements that we're making, I think are really critical. And so next time we'll define what local community means. And I just want to say thank you so much for this. And if we can come back in 4 minutes, that would be fabulous at 20 after.
Thank you. And Dan, with Commissioner Dan, I see you have your hand raised. We will, after the meeting, we will come back and address any of your concerns. Just so I wanted to give 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh, I was trying to address the last point, which we didn't actually discuss.
Oh, go. No? Okay.
The last point was to honor the decisions of the group, right? And that was worked into the previous point, but we didn't address it by itself. And you know, the point that this comes to me is I want to honor the decisions of the group, but I don't know if we have a common understanding what those decisions are, because we haven't defined our decision-making process yet. So I think there's been some confusion about decisions that were made in subcommittee meetings, and so I want to honor the decisions of the group, but I also need to make sure we have a common understanding what that means.
Thank you so much, Dan. We will add that to the parking lot.
Thank you, Dan. Then this 6:17, let's come back at 6:22. 5 minutes. Thank you. A comment? Thank you very much, Dan. And before we go to the values and principles, I want to ask a question. Is there any suggestions or concerns to the agenda before we continue with the reviewing what is next? No. Okay, then for the focus on this agenda, we are going to go to principles and values. And for this specific session, I'm gonna pass it to the co-chairs, that's Sophia and Angie. Go ahead, Sophia and Angie. We're ready for you.
Okay, this is Angie. I'll start off, Sophia, but if you want to jump in or if you don't want me to speak, just let me know. So we are going to go over the values and right here. And so the City of Portland adopted these values in June 2020 to guide all city work, including this commission. And we see that the first is anti-racism, and we can go through each one of these, then equity, transparency, communication, collaboration, and fiscal responsibility. They're all relevant to the commission's work, and we don't have a lot of time to talk about each one of them right now, I don't think, but we wanted to touch on those. So, Sophia, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't know, Sophia, can you hear? Maybe. I think for some reason, I don't think Sophia can hear us.
She might be on mute or having.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Sophia, sorry.
So sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, can you repeat? It says stay unmuted. Okay.
I can continue on from this slide to the next slide, or do we want to speak a little bit more? And I'm sorry, I'm at the airport right now and it's really loud. I'm gonna put myself on mute for 1 second.
Thought that was one of those cool backdrops.
Yes, it's true.
No, and now my glasses are fogging up because I'm so I'm flustered. I'm sorry. So I'm going to put myself on mute.
Angie and Sophia, if for some reason you can not say that, but we can read this slide and the importance on defining PAC values and principles. If any of you, Sophia, can do it, or
yes,
we can ask somebody else. Thank you. Okay.
The statement of intent for defining the PAC principal values. The statement of intent, publicly stating its values and principles serves as a statement of the broad goals of the PAC, the PAC, and hopes to achieve, and an invitation for the group to share these values to work with PAC. So that is the intent. Just publicly state the principles. This serves as a statement of the broad goals. So situating the PAC within the city values. So what we're wanting to do is we have a list of values and opinions that both fit within the broader city core values and emphasizes specific parts that are relevant to the work and highlights the improvement of the PAC and the city's achieving its values. So what we're trying to do is we're adding, taking these values and emphasizing some specific parts that deal with what the PAC is doing, the Police Accountability Commission. And our success criteria, I'm going to have Angie come back and when she gets a chance to, because this is one of her, she explains it pretty well. At any point during the PAC's work, especially before the final vote, to send the outcomes to the city council. The PAC work can be compared to the values and the principles to see if the PAC is successful in its work. So we want to see, you know, once we have our statement of intent and how we emphasize our values, we want to make sure we're doing what we say we're going to do, and we're reflecting in our work the values that we said we had. The values and the principles can serve as a North Star to highlight the PAC, how the PAC should take in situations where it's not immediately clear, a reference to look back and say, you know, in order to meet our values, we should do this or we should do that. So this is a way, the success criteria is a way for us to do what we say we're going to do and evaluate, did we actually do it? So I want to see if Angie is back and ready.
Yes, I am. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Sophia, and thank you for explaining those so succinctly. Yes, I do feel that going back to our values is almost like a mission statement for our commission, in that it lends transparency. You know, whenever we're having a problem with what we're supposed to decide on or what we're supposed to be doing, being able to go back to those values is really important and lends transparency to what we're doing, hopefully. And also by establishing those success criteria, it also gives transparency to all of our work, because it shows exactly how we're trying to move forward. And, you know, some of this work is going to be slower than other parts of the work. And by having these success criteria out there and knowing what we're aiming towards, we have a better idea of how to get to what we're trying to get to. So that yes, I'm very supportive of the values and the success criteria and establishing those.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you. And we're gonna have enough time to discuss this information, but before we go into that, can we go to the next slide, please? For the discussion we have, and we want to hear from every one of the commissioners, if possible, as we always remind ourselves to be brief. Anyone can speak multiple times, but take no more than 1 minute each time you speak. The facilitator, raise hands on Zoom and allow the facilitator to call on people in a way that promotes conversation, keep things moving, and allow everyone to speak, and be constructive, look forward and discuss how to make the subcommittee's work more successful in the future on each question. If for some reason, Christine and the staff, somebody is raised their hand or make comment and I don't know, please bring it to my attention. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. And the question, oh yes, Sima, please, go ahead.
I'd like to read into the record a note in the chat from Dan Handelman. He stated that I want to acknowledge that I see 2 members of the Citizen Review Committee in the audience, as well as 3 members of Commissioner Hardesty's staff, and at least 4 members of the media, along with 3 or more members of the general public. I know the webinar format doesn't allow us to see each other.
Thank you, Sima. Thank you very much. And thank you for reading. And I also want to make sure that you know there was in the chat, and is the messages to everyone is also recorded and taken in consideration for the public meeting. Thank you. Okay. The question is, what are some values or principles that should be in the commission's values and principles documents? What do you think? And remember, this is a brainstorming. We just getting ideas. We just listening what you think it should be included. And then the co-chairs are gonna work with the information that you provide. Who would like to go first? And because we read what the values, the city of Portland values are already that we're under, and if we get is that, if we can get to slide 10, just to refresh our memory of the city Portland values. We are under those values. They are already chosen and recognized by the city of Portland. And we can also discuss if we want to use some of these too. We want to include it or what it means to us.
Are you asking us to add our own?
For the commission, yes. I can get back to the commission. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So two things that come to my mind in advocacy work and representing the community is integrity and also authenticity.
Integrity and authenticity. Thank you very much, May. And Dan, do you want to make this comment or just in the chat? It's okay.
Well, yeah, I just thought you might bring up the answer to my question, which is there an explanation of the communication value? Because that can mean a lot of things. And I understand what it means. It's only one word.
Yes, and then there is an explanation to the city values, and there is a document that we can bring or send to you. I don't have it in front of me. That's why I don't want to create this. But we can, it's definitely an information and we can share it with you. What do you think, or propose should be on the communication value? If it's a value that you think is important to bring. Is that, Dan, do you wanna answer? What do you think?
I thought you were asking everybody. Well, I mean,
everybody too.
I think it's important for us to communicate with each other, for one thing. I think that somebody already pointed out that because we're public officials, it's very complicated for us to communicate with each other between meetings without, we have to make sure we're not doing work behind closed doors that the public can't see, but we need a way to communicate with each other. And we also have to communicate with the public. And that's one of the reasons I try to always acknowledge the members of the community when I do my introductions and try to list out who I saw in the audience, because I know what it's like to be on the other side of that and not know what's going on. I think that's a form of communication. And more broadly than that, when we're communicating to the community what we're doing, I think it's really important for us to put a very high value on that, because I know there are some people in the community, including some who are here tonight, that wouldn't have known that the commission even had started meeting if they weren't in touch with me and my group, Portland Cop Watch. So there's a lot of layers to communication that I think that's why I asked, what does the city mean by that?
Thank you, Dan. And I will say I really appreciate that from you, that you always acknowledge the public, and that is a very important point. And we're very thankful that you do that. Thank you very much. As a person, I have a communication firm, and I'm with you. That's a very important value, but it has to be very specific, define what it means. What other values or principles do you think may be integrated for the commission? I don't know, Eva, you're talking, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you so much. I would like to add servant leadership. I believe that effective servant leaders acknowledge and understand the importance of their responsibilities. We protect and uphold the trust and confidence given to us in the role, and we communicate this with others on the commission. So as a steward, I think that our hard work, respecting one another's time, and just being committed to the growth, the overall growth of the people and the community we serve should be in the forefront.
Thank you very much, Eva. That's very, very important. Thank you. Yes, Catherine?
Yes, I think my comment sort of dovetails in Eva's, which is that I think accountability to the public is a critical value for us. We're here in response to an initiative that was passed by an overwhelming number of voters in this community. And I think they have high expectations that we will work to implement their will. And I feel, really responsible to the community to get that done. So it's interesting too, that that's also within the name of our commission, and that's what we are expecting others. So I think we cannot expect that kind of accountability and demand it of others unless we are also demonstrating it in our work.
Thank you, Catherine. And it's so important. It's part of the name, your name of the commission, right? Accountability. And that's good. And I also want to acknowledge that in the chat, there is a message about the values of the city. You want to read it? Is there? Thank you. Who else? What other values or principles do you think are essential in the work that you all are doing for the community? Yes, Commissioner Sophia.
I want to go back to a couple of the communication and accountability, and just turn that inward to the commissioners. The communication between ourselves is extremely important. And I think that takes a lot of work and a lot of listening to each other and a lot of patience. And then also the accountability to each other. We read some of these values before for the group that we hold for our community standards. And, the success of this commission is based on how well we communicate and cooperate. I can't remember what was on this slide before, but I think there was another one on there. It's either collaboration or something of that nature. It's just very important for us to be able to take the time with each other internally so that we can provide that so that we can provide the public with what they need. It starts internally with us. If we can't get ourselves together, we can't do anything for the public. So communication and collaboration inward, I just wanted to say, it's not just for the public, it's also for us as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Sophia. And you're right, it's also collaboration, and everything that starts with you, within you, to go out. Yes, that's very good. Commissioner Connie, please.
Yes, hi. I was going to, I'm on a subcommittee for community engagement, and even from that, we have a smaller group in which we are working to kind of put the values and principles drafting document together. And so we had a discussion and earlier today, and one of the things that really came up for me was the equity and representation is something that is going to be a very important value and principle here. We, as the commission, is very widely reflective of everyone's opinions, like we just discussed, and like sort of the core values, as we all read aloud, like honoring everyone's different like lens and where they come from and point of view. We need to like call that in and reflect that and take that into account as we do the work of this commission and really represent as broad of the different walks of life that we can.
Thank you, Commissioner Connie. Thank you. Who else? What other principles or values you think should be at least considered or integrating for this work, for the work that you are committed to do? Because we have not a lot of time, I'm gonna start calling on some of you, or does somebody wants to go first? Or even they're very different. Oh, Connie, you gonna say something? Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, explained earlier, we had a meeting about this specific. So I'm happy to call out some of the things, and then maybe some of the commissioners could speak to them if that it was easier to receive a prompt or something. Then, you know, I'm happy to call out some of the goals that we very loosely outlined, and then people could speak to that if that felt more comfortable.
I see some heads nodding. I think you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. So some of the goals that we listed, I spoke about equity and representation. If that's something someone else wants to speak on, please do so. We talked about accessibility. You know, obviously right now we have interpreters and ASL, and but you know, all forms of accessibility. So I don't know if anyone wants to take the mic from there and speak on that.
If somebody wants to see their take and being accessible to others, to the public, to the community.
Hi, this is May. Can I add a little bit about accessibility?
Sure, May, please.
I would like to see more efforts in reaching out to everybody, the community as a whole, and others with who are in marginalized communities where there is not really much representation for interpretation and translation. Also those who are illiterate or who might not have access to internet, encompassing of just everybody, not just those who can access Zoom or have who can benefit from ASL or other major translation languages.
Thank you, May. Thank you. Who else? Yes, Charlie, Commissioner Charlie, so please go ahead.
I don't know if it's been mentioned, but trust is huge and hard to gain when we just have kind of a checkoff list without explanation. So if we could be a little specific or define these values and principles so they're more easily understood. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Charlie. And you touched a very important point about trust. Without trust, nothing is possible. Thank you. And I know Simab has raised his hand, and now your turn.
I appreciate it. I would ask people to be mindful when that we are speaking, to be thought out, to be clear, and to pace ourselves, because we do have interpreters and we want to make their jobs easier.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Thank you very much. And that also can be a value, right? And it's part of communication too, as well, and being accessible. Okay, let me call, Winta, you wanna share what values or principles you think should be part of this commission?
Sure. You know, I see that Philip in the chat has contributed a proposed value of being people-centered, and I appreciate that. I think keeping in mind why we're here and that we're talking about impact to real lives is really important. And then the other thing that's been on my mind is I think we should embrace having really hard conversations in public, in this public forum, that in a lot of ways, you know, there is a lot of interest in this work, and we shouldn't be overly facilitated, is I guess what I'm saying, that we should make sure there's room in these meetings to tease out the conversations that we need to.
Thank you. That's very, very important. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. That's not a problem. Uncomfortable is necessary to grow and to change. That's important. Thank you. And Debbie, would you like to contribute about the principles and values?
So I'm not sure what I'm thinking about is a principle or a value, but one thing once we get into the part where we're actually working on the oversight system, I think we all need to be like curious and open to information from both, sources like from the academic community and place, but also from our community. So that, I think communication includes receiving as well as sharing. And so, so those are some ideas, but I don't know how to capture them in a word that's a value or a principle.
No, but it's okay. They're beautiful, right? Nothing happens if we don't share or be open or curious. That's a very important point.
Thanks.
Thank you. Lovisa, and if I pronounce any of your names incorrect, please tell me because I'm learning.
No, you said it just right. Lovisa, member of the commission.
And I'm sorry, Commissioner Lovisa, sorry.
Thanks. It'll take a while to get used to that. I wanted to say I definitely really like and support the idea of servant leadership that someone mentioned earlier. Leaders really as servants of the group who help the group and assist the group and don't force an agenda onto the group, but allow and recognize and respect that the group has a lot of wisdom. And I also look forward to the rotation of leadership. I don't know if this might fall under equity or exactly how it might work, but I do think the group will be stronger for seeing many different types of people served in whatever positions we end up agreeing to have, who are our servant leaders.
Thank you very much. And that, yeah, it's important because then the more diversity, there are more opinions and more answers. And thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Tirsa?
Yes, Tirsa. I would add inclusion. I know representation was mentioned earlier, but inclusion and representation. I think sometimes it's easier to probably not, or probably to exclude certain people, but I think it should be a value, a core value to try to make sure that we're including voices from different members in the community in our work.
Thank you, Commissioner Tirsa. And yeah, we have to reflect the community, and our community is very diverse, right? Thank you. And let me see who, Commissioner Jason? Okay. Who hasn't gone? Let me see. We need to. Who else? I'm missing.
All right, I was so intent on listening, I left my microphone off.
Okay.
I would speak to the value of communication again and listening to the community, and not only listening to the community that comes to us, but going and seeking out community that is not volunteering to come and talk to us. And that's going to take a lot of work from our community engagement subcommittee, and I'm looking forward to that work.
Thank you, Commissioner Jason. And that's very important, to go, not to expect people to come to us, but we go where people is. And as they were mentioning, there is Commissioner Winter said lack of internet, lack of access to a device, or lack of speaking English or other languages. Okay, I think, oh yes, Commissioner Dunn, sorry, go ahead.
I think, I know May can't see the screen, so I put in the chat that I think she's trying to talk. And
Okay.
Commissioner May, if you want to press *9 on your phone, that'll raise your hand, just as a helpful Zoom hint. But you can't lower your own hand, so the facilitator has to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. And yeah, Commissioner May, please.
I think she just muted herself.
Okay,
Can
Commissioner.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to add what Jason and Tirsa was talking about, inclusivity, and I believe Jason brought up accessibility. But I would like to see more of an effort at the grassroots level. Those are the organizations and the people who are working with the most vulnerable communities. It's not just about who reaches out to you, but how are we going to be equitable in our approach? We have a lot riding on this commission. You know, this has been a long time coming, and there's so much distrust in the community right now. And I think our work is really important in trying to build that relationship with everybody, looking at everything as a whole, everybody as a part of the system. We are essentially having to earn the trust of the community and then building upon that and creating the relationships from it.
Yes, thank you. A very, very important point. And it's true, communities, marginalized communities, they live in crisis mode or survival mode. It's more difficult to focus and have the ability or the capacity to read or retain all the information, or do the extra effort, and is in order to be inclusive, we have to go to them. Thank you, Commissioner May. And I know Commissioner Connie has her hand raised. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Just as we wrap this one up, I just wanted to also state one of the other principles that came up on our call values was to be doing this work with an anti-racism lens and really try to have that be at the forefront. So, you know, many of the things we've discussed, equity, representation, inclusion, accessibility, all of them can kind of, I think, be connected to a bigger conversation here, which is to approach this work with an anti-racism lens.
Anti-racism lens. Thank you, Commissioner Connie. And Commissioner Sophia, please.
Yes, thank you, Connie, because I was going to get to that. And there was someone else talking about the hard discussions that we have. You know, racism is very, there's so many shades of that. And having these hard conversations and listening to other folks about what is racism and how is it felt for other people, even if you don't feel as if you are being racist. It might be a normal kind of behavior or idea that you have that you never even thought about. So there's going to be some really hard conversations about racism, and racism comes from the person who's being discriminated against, not necessarily the person who's doing it, because sometimes people, we think that should be common sense. That's not common sense. So the anti-racism, not only in our community and in the policing, but in ourselves, thinking about ourselves and our biases that may or may not be racism, or some of our norms that may or may not be considered racism. Just to be open to those conversations when someone brings that to your attention, to just take a moment to think about it and not react, and just listen to the perspective of the other person. And when we do that with each other, we also do that with our community, right? The community that we were serving, listening to them and looking at it from the other side. As the old folks in my family used to say, you know, if the shoe was on the other foot, you know. So let's just kind of think about that. And thanks for bringing that up, Connie.
Thank you, Commissioner Sophia. Thank you for your comments. And I know Dan and Eva have raised their hand. Commissioner Dan?
Yeah, so there's been something going on in the news that led me to think a little bit about this. The training slide that came out from the Portland Police Bureau that was very anti-protester. And that slide deck that included that had a slide that instructed the Portland Police Rapid Response Team to be careful responding to anti-police protests. I asked the chief on Tuesday night whether he thought that protests for police accountability were anti-police, and he said no, he doesn't think so. So I'm hoping that's a value that people can understand, that when we're pushing forward police accountability, that's not anti-police. But while we're doing that, I also want to hold in mind and bear in mind, you know, that Portland Cop Watch, our goals here are to promote police accountability and, you know, to make sure there's accountability for the officers while we have police. But there are people in the community who want to see us find another way to have community safety that doesn't involve this very long-standing tradition of police. So those are the people who call themselves abolitionists. And I would sure love to have a society where I'm not spending all my time worrying about police accountability. But I want to be open to the idea of that when there are people who are following our work who don't think there should be police at all, but that we have an important role, that while there are police, we're trying to hold them accountable. So I guess I just wanted to make that point, although it was a couple of points drawn together as we move forward.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, and accountability is a part of all our work, right? Being accountable as a mom is not that I against moms, right? It's just being accountable and the roles and the commitments we have. You're right. Thank you. And Commissioner Eva, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to really take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate some of the comments that were made as I interpreted them being anti-racist, acknowledging our own implicit bias, being intentional about how we want to impact others, and overall just applying a trauma-informed lens to this commission and to the work that we're facing, and knowing that we all come from different paths. I really appreciated some of the examples that other commissioners gave. So again, I just wanted to add emphasis on that. I believe that that's really important as we look for a solution-oriented approach to police accountability and oversight.
Thank you, Eva. And we are almost ready to take another break, but before the next is the next steps. And for the next step, after this wonderful conversation and sharing and all your point of views, they are very rich. The co-chairs are gonna get together with the staff, review all these notes and put together a document that you can review and edit and add more opinions about. And before we go to break, Christine, do you want something you wanna say? No?
No. Great conversation. Beautiful conversation. Yep.
Thank you. Is there anybody that wants to say something before we go to break? No? Okay. Thank you again for each of your opinions. That was great. It was great listening and learning more about you, all commissioners. And there is 7:02. Let's take a 5 minutes break and come back at 7:07 for the rest of the agenda. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, welcome back. I hope you have at least enough time to move a little for this long meeting, but we are the last part. Thank you again for being here all this time. Okay, and I'm gonna ask Christine to share this screen, to share these slides again. Thank you, Christine. For the next topic. The next topic is agenda and scoping. And on this topic, we have, let me see, I think because Angie is no longer with us, right? Then Sophia, I think, let me see my notes. Commissioner Sophia, sorry.
Yes, it's okay, no worries.
I promise I will do better. Okay, if everybody is here now, we all here. Okay, I think we almost are here. And okay.
I'm gonna check some notes. So when you bring it back up.
Sure.
Because I know that Angie sent me some notes. I wanted to put those up real quick.
Of course, of course. Commissioner Sophia, you are mute. I don't know, you were.
I'm so sorry for the silence, is what I'm saying.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I'm sorry, because I was like, oh, I thought I had it up. So I'm going back to the email really quick.
Don't worry, there is a lot going on. We can go to the next slide and we can start reading. That way we give you time to look for your notes.
Oh, I found it now.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Thank you.
So Angie, she sent me some things. She says, when it comes to the scoping, she had some ideas that she wanted me to share. And she says, we need to think about what it is we need to submit to the city council when we are done. So the final thing, what are we gonna have in the end result? What is our deliverable, right? I'll just use her own words. She says, here's her spitball points for to just share. And she says, 1, rules on selecting a new board. You know, how will the public or the city of Portland or the police bureau be involved or not? What power will the boards have? And these are the deliverables that we're talking about. The end result, I know we're not there. We're still in this phase of getting structured. So not to think too much into this. These are just thoughts of end results. So we know we don't have the structure fully formed right now, but these are just things to think about, okay? And then she wants to say, and she says, what is going to be included in the oversight? And she wants to define what types of cases they will be overseen and how long the board terms will be. Whether it be a period of reevaluation or how often will the board meet. She says we'll be writing their bylaws as well. So she's thinking ahead. We're in the bylaws phase. And she's like, oh, these bylaws are going to be for the full commission once it's instituted. Will they or will they be able to be amended or anything like that? So she says, these are some general questions. she thinks that we should try to scope out to give transparency to our work. And she says she also thinks that using the city's guiding principles are great, but for transparency reasons, we might want to craft a mission statement of our work and our guiding statement. So that was what she had to lend to that as far as scoping is concerned. So let me go back to the slide before that.
Yeah, we can check the slide number 18.
Is that 18? I don't know why I think.
Yeah, there's. Is the 18? I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I don't think it was it. I'm sorry, you had the slide up earlier.
This
Oh.
is slide 18 is up right now. Do you see it, Victoria?
Yes, I see it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm actually looking.
Yeah, do you know?
My slide deck.
Oh, yeah, Commissioner, I think there was one addition and wasn't to the slides. That's why it's one number off.
Okay, okay.
But we can read this.
Okay. I'm gonna open up my screen so I can read it. Actually, I'm gonna read it from my slide deck. It might be a little easier.
And please, if I can ask one of the commissioners to read this slide, please. Anyone? Okay.
Happy to read it. Is it? Sorry.
Sorry, Commissioner Eva, and then you can read 2 bullets, and then Commissioner Tirsa can read the other 2, please. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? I'm actually having a hard time reading it. I can't zoom in. So if someone else who can read it, I'm having trouble actually seeing it, unless you can make it larger.
Okay, just Commissioner Charlie, you have a question? Or you can read it.
Mhm.
You can read the 2 first bullets, and then Commissioner Tirsa can read the other 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Resolution 37527. Receive attorney-client privileged information in a private forum from the city attorney's office regarding any labor matters under the Public Employees Collective Bargaining Act and/or the collective bargaining agreements within the Portland Police Bureau, as well as U.S. Department of Justice. Second bullet, invite experts to testify and answer questions, research necessary topics, and allow for public testimony.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just for a note for Commissioner Dan, and thank you, I didn't know that, and makes a lot of sense. We're not gonna use the word, it's a suggestion to use the word bullet to describe the dots because what that means, but I didn't know and we didn't know. Thank you, Commissioner Dan, for your suggestion. And thank you, Commissioner Charlie, for reading it. And if we can go to Commissioner Tirsa, please, for the 3rd bullet and 4th bullet. I'm sorry, I just said it and then repeat it again. I'm sorry, for the 3rd point and the 4th point. Oh, yes.
Okay. Invite and seek out subject matter experts to inform their work, including police officers and law enforcement experts. Current or former law enforcement officers are not eligible to serve on this commission, but shall be invited as subject matter experts to provide testimony as the commission sees fit. The commission will work with the City Attorney Office and Office of Equity and Human Relations to ensure that recommendations consider the city's equity goals and comply with collective bargaining and other legal requirements.
Thank you, Commissioner, for reading it. Okay, we can go to the next slide, please. Mhm. Christine, can we go to the next one, please? I know we're gonna discuss this, but I just wanted to check the next one. Okay. Can I have?
So there's 3 slides on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please, can I have another volunteer to read this page?
So we actually want to go back to this one and then that next one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Anyone can read it. I don't see everybody here.
I'm happy to read.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Lloyd. All right, resolution 37548. The commission will create a code change package to create a new police oversight system as reflected in the City of Portland Charter Amendment establishing a community police oversight board. Upon completion of their work, the commission will present this code change package to City Council for their consideration. The commission is required to seek out testimony and input from all stakeholders in the Federal Department of Justice Settlement Agreement, as well as other interested parties, impacted communities, and concerned constituents, and may seek out expertise from those they identify as beneficial to the process both within and outside of Portland. The commission will work with the City Attorney Office and Bureau of Human Resources to ensure that recommendations comply with collective bargaining and other requirements.
Thank you, Commissioner. And there is a question before we continue reading for Commissioner Dan and say, are we going to discuss this as we go along or at the end? And it's up to you, up to the commissioners. If you want us to stop here and discuss any of the ones, the dots that we have reviewed and read, that's fine. Or if we want to finish and discuss at the end, that's also fine. I will ask if somebody would like to discuss what we have read now, please to raise their hand and we can take this or we continue to the next and last slide. It's up to you. Okay, I don't see anybody raising their hand. Let's read the last one.
I see
Oh.
Sophia's hand.
Oh, Sophia, Commissioner Sophia, please go ahead.
That's okay. When Angie and I and Samir and the facilitators, when we were putting this slide deck together, we were putting these back up because we wanted to reiterate and refresh our own memories about what our job is as the commissioners. And this is something that I would like for the group to have a little bit of discussion on the thoughts. I don't know how often you've read this. I know I read these right at the very beginning when I was selected, or actually before I was selected, actually. I think they were already up there, but definitely afterwards. And, you know, just trying to help myself focus on what the outcomes of this commission is going to be. And I have heard, like, I think it was Debbie saying that she was hoping that we would get some subject matter experts. I can't remember if that was you, Debbie, or not, but you know, there was a lot of comments that we've had already so far that kind of go into these. And I would just like to, you know, hear the commissioners, you know, comments on these and what they think about what our end result is supposed to be. I did read you, I think a little prematurely, Angie's comments, but if anyone has any, I'd like to hear them.
Thank you, Commissioner Sophia. And yes, we have Sima. He wants to say something. Please, Commissioner.
Appreciate it. Thank you. If we can go back to that slide, the one that actually Sophia is talking about.
Sure, the first one.
Yes.
Mhm.
Actually, no.
That one.
This
right?
one. Yes. Okay.
Perfect.
Invite and seek out subject matter experts to inform their work, including police officers and law enforcement experts. Why do we have to highlight specifically police officers and law enforcement experts? It's as if they would be excluded from being talked about as subject matter experts. We should include other terms such as civil rights advocates and attorneys as well, or something like that, if this would be the case. I feel like it's providing a little unnecessary space.
Thank you, Commissioner. We definitely taken the note to make the edits. Okay. Another comment, and Commissioner Sophia, you think that now it will be better after we revise or read what Angie has say at the end, that maybe have more sense now that we read it?
Yes, I apologize. I know it was out of sync. I didn't want to forget it. I knew she was
No.
today. All right, so we have some other folks.
Sure, go ahead.
Hey, this is May. I have a question. Going back to CMOB's question, are we going to remove police officers out of the picture as a whole, or just the terminology?
If I can add some clarification
Sure.
based on the thought that I originally had. For me, it's not necessarily removing them as a whole, allowing that always to be something that could be discussed and approached, which is my position. But specifically including wording such as including police officers and law enforcement experts as subject matter experts. If we're going to speak of subject matter experts, I don't know why we would feel the need to necessarily elevate police officers and law enforcement experts. We can create a list that would be evenly weighted. This seems biased.
Thank you.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Is that okay? I have other members, but Commissioner May, is there anything else you wanna comment before I pass it to the other commissioners?
No, I mean, I see what CMOB's point is. It seems like we're emphasizing just focusing on police officers when there's more content experts that could also provide to the conversation that should be included, but they're not highlighted. Is that correct, CMOB?
Correct. I
Okay.
feel like we are here
I agree
simply
with that.
because we are the independent police review commission. It's highlighting subject matter experts, specifically police officers and law enforcement again. Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree with that too. And that's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner.
It's just saying that with some of the conversation I had earlier today was it's really important earning the trust of the community and also how we convey our message. Everything from the way that we communicate to the choice of words we use and how we present ourselves and how we treat the community.
Thank you. That's very important. Thank you, Commissioner May. And now I will pass it to Commissioner Dan.
Yeah, I just want to point out that these are words that the City Council put together to guide our work. So we can't erase any of them, but we can add to them, as Commissioner Hussaini was suggesting. I agree with that. I think one of the subject matter experts we should add to the list are people involved in police oversight, including the people involved in oversight in this city, the Citizen Review Committee and the Independent Police Review, and even the members of the police review board who never have public meetings, but we should call them to come talk to us either in a public meeting or some kind of subcommittee. So I think that's an important thing that I don't want to ignore. I was a little confused, and I think I still am, about where the orange highlighting came from, because later on it seems to be for optional things, but this one that's highlighted here says shall be invited, so it's not an optional thing. So can somebody just explain why these things were highlighted? A little confusing to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dan. And I don't know if the staff wanna answer or just put the question and then answer in another moment. Let me know, because I don't see.
Happy to answer there.
Okay.
It's the as the commission sees fit. It's that's the language. So shall be invited, but as it sees fit implies optionality. So maybe that was a mistake, but that's the scope from the second of the two council resolutions. So that's why it was highlighted orange. Thank you, and apologies for the lack of clarity.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Catherine, please.
Maybe I just want to understand this better, but I think this was the first resolution, and this was the resolution associated with the initial putting together of the committee when the council agreed to go ahead and select and form a commission. And then, as I understand it, the second resolution, the 548 resolution, was the one that was adopted concurrently with us all being appointed. And so just in my review of the two, I have assumed that the second one, which has a whole lot more detail, was really the city council's attempt to really flesh out what it said in a more abbreviated way when it was first authorizing itself to form the commission. So in the second, if I'm reading this correctly, in the second resolution, it directs us to seek out testimony and input from all stakeholders in the Federal Department of Justice settlement, as well as other interested parties, impacted communities, and concerned constituents, and may seek out expertise from those they identify as beneficial to the process, both within and outside of Portland. So that is a more open-ended charge to us. I mean, certainly the law enforcement is a stakeholder in the settlement agreement, but so are many other communities, and many of which are represented by folks on this commission. So I guess that is how I've come to understand these two documents. I'd appreciate if anybody else is reading it differently, or whether that makes sense in terms of a construction of the two.
Thank you, Commissioner. And let me see if Commissioner Debbie or Sophia had an opinion. If not, if that doesn't answer your question, we can ask the staff. Thank you.
So I felt like I'm here, I mean, I agree with you that there were two separate exhibits, and one kind of talked about the creation of our group and the other one talked about what we're supposed to do. I mean, Samir would be able to confirm this. It seems like what is showing up on the screen is sort of some highlights from those, but you know, we can ask whoever put the slide together to explain how they did it. If you go back and actually look at the full exhibit, it just sort of seems like this is kind of a little bit of a shortened version.
Thank you, Commissioner Debbie. And we're going to Sophia, to answer the question, we're going to the police accountability staff and then to Sophia. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So our understanding in terms of the city has been what Catherine said is correct in terms of the timing and the intent and all of that. With relation to the second question that Debbie raised, the first slide, slide 18, is 3 particular points within the part related to the scope of work of that resolution, which, as Catherine mentioned, sets up the selection process. It's from December 2020, setting up the selection process for the members of the commission. And then the slide 19 and 20 are essentially all of the scope related work, which is essentially the whole exhibit from the resolution passed in July 2021 in parallel with the resolution that appointed everybody to the 20 members of the commission. So, yes, it is shortened to make it fit onto a slide. The reason the resolution numbers are included there is so that folks can go and look at the slides, or sorry, look at the full resolutions and read them for themselves. They're also available on the key documents page on the website, which is portland.gov/police-accountability.
Thank you. And if we can put it on the chat, that way it will be easier for copy and paste, please. And now, Commissioner Sophia, please go ahead.
I was actually going to clarify that earlier, but I didn't want to cut people off when they were giving their opinions. I was trying to biting at the bit a little bit, trying to say, if you look at the second one, it clarifies some of the issues that were brought up earlier. So that's all. And Samir explained it, and Catherine acknowledged that there was some confusion, and her understanding is correct. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we can continue discussing the ones we read. We're still missing the last slide to read it. Oh, yeah, the continue. Please, if someone wants to read the last one, please. Okay, Commissioner Connie.
Resolution 37548 continued. A definition of terms, a transition plan, powers of the new oversight system, organizational details, including staffing, workflow of investigations and process, board membership, terms, etc., reporting to the public and council. Optional, author reports explaining conclusions. Optional, proposed change in language of new charter amendment to Charter Review Commission. Also optional, recommend to council on expansion of this scope to allow for creation of a successful oversight system.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Connie. And we already started, the discussion is completely fine. Please, if you have any question, Commissioner Dan, please.
One of the points here is the transition plan, the second item on this slide. I don't know how many people are paying attention to the U.S. Department of Justice agreement, but I've been involved in that since before it was signed by the city in November of 2012. And recently, the DOJ asked the city council and the auditor to come up with separate transition plans of how to get from the current independent police review system to the new board. And those were, I think those were presented to them earlier because the deadline was supposed to be in January. And I think it was said at the city council hearing yesterday that the DOJ will decide which plan to go with. So I'm not saying that takes it out of our scope to talk about that transition plan, because as we get closer to the reality, there may be more details that aren't discussed in those plans between the city and the DOJ. But just so everybody knows, there is a higher level discussion about that going on already. And I testified at council about that yesterday, and I said, I want to make this clear to everybody who's here and everybody who's listening, that we have an independent police review right now that is starting to lose staff because the new board hasn't been set up yet and they don't know what their future is. So I want to make sure that people understand that if the city doesn't figure out a way, we the commission are not anywhere near being able to figure this out. So if the city doesn't figure out a way to keep the IPR going, all we're going to have left anymore is internal affairs, reviewing police misconduct allegations. And I think that 40 years ago, the city voted to create civilian oversight. We've had civilian oversight for 40 years this year. And I think it would be a really bad idea to go backwards before we move forwards. So to the extent that our commission can do anything about making sure that the current system stays in place which is was mentioned in another slide, until the new board is ready to go. I think it would be good for us to have that conversation at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. And I want to notice that in the chat, there is the links for where you can find the whole information of these resolutions. You want to check it out and read it. I also remember that Commissioner Jason had his hand at some moment, and then I wanted to ask him, do you want to say something, Commissioner?
Well, I agree with Dan that this is an important issue and it's going to usurp a lot of our powers at this point, or a lot of our work. If the city is forced to create a transition plan quickly for IPR to continue working, that would basically be the work of this committee.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that, and that there's a lot of politics going on here.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And we have a discussion. We already know this slide. They say be brief, be facilitated, be constructive. And the question is, what are some parts? Oh, and before that, Commissioner Sophia, would you like to read the notes of Commissioner Angie now that we review all the slides? It's up to you. You are on mute. I'm sorry.
Okay, I have too many screens going on here. Yes, let me bring that back up. I had just closed it. Angie. Okay, so these are some of the things, I'm sorry I did this off timing, but hopefully it'll make more sense now. Angie says we need to think about, in considering what just been discussed, what we'll be needing to submit to City Council when we're done. And she says these are a couple things. I think she's got 5 items here. Rules on selecting the new board, and how will the public / City of Portland / Portland Police Bureau be involved? What powers will the board have? I know we're talking about Dan and Jason are talking about transitioning. What kind of powers will the new board have? What is going to be included in their oversight? Defining on what types of cases they will oversee, how long the board terms will be, and what will be the period of re-evaluation, she says, and how often will the board meet? And she says, we'll be writing the bylaws for the new commission. So these bylaws, I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm not sure if the bylaws that we're creating are gonna be the same ones, or whether they're gonna be able to be modified once the new commission comes aboard. I don't know, but the thing I have here, in my opinion, is the more work that we do on our end to prepare for this transition team, or this transition into the new board, the better off we'll all be. We'll be able to put our input in there. It'll be in writing. It'll be something that we can at least present to the commissioners as far as maybe suggestions. So, I just encourage everyone to read over this resolutions to see how we can guide our work that we're doing now for the full board when it comes into play.
Thank you, Commissioner Sophia. And before, is there any other comment? We have 2 questions. What are some parts of the scope of work that should be discussed? We already have discussed it. And is there any items the PAC should address that you think? And if it's okay with you, there is, I noticed the city attorney, Sarah Ames, is here and she wants to respond to some of the comments. It's up to you. We can give her a brief moment if this is okay with you, because this is your meeting. And okay, and then we can continue with the agenda. Go ahead, Attorney Sarah Ames, please.
Hi, if you can hear me. I'm Sarah Ames. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a deputy city attorney working on the settlement agreement. I just heard your concern about the two plans to ensure the transition that the city auditor and the city attorney's office, the city council, will be submitting to the Department of Justice. I just want to reassure you that those plans do not infringe at all upon your freedom and your design of a new police oversight and accountability system. It is explicitly per the settlement agreement designed to present a plan to the U.S. for an orderly transition to the Community Police Oversight Board by ensuring the continuity of IPR operations while the commission develops the oversight board for city council's approval. And so your job is to develop the new thing. Our plan is just to keep the citizen involvement through IPR going in the meantime. And that, of course, is a challenge because, you know, you've got employees who are working very hard and trying to keep a system going, knowing that it's on its way out. So I just wanted to assure you that this part of the settlement agreement does not infringe on your duties and your responsibilities.
Thank you, Attorney, for comment. And I know that is out of topic in a way, but we wanted to give you the space. And I see that Commissioner Sima has a comment, please.
Yeah, just for clarification for our city attorney, Sarah Ames, in the Q&A section when she stated before January 1st, the city council and auditor shall each present a plan to the United States. Is this referring to the US DOJ, United States Department of Justice?
Yes, that is to the United States Department of Justice, and they will look at both of the plans, decide if either or both are acceptable, and then the city council will choose one of the plans. At the point it gets to the city council, certainly it will be a matter of public discussion.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there any, before we go into the last part of the meeting, and I wanna ask especially Commissioner that haven't been able to talk, Commissioner Lovisa, if you want to say something about this topic. I don't want to put you on the spot. I just want to give you opportunity to, and if you don't want to, that's fine. I just before.
Oh no, it's fine. Thanks. Yeah, no, I don't have anything in particular to say except for that. I look forward to the language being disseminated after the meeting, and I do think it's just a good idea for everyone to review what the resolution says.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And Commissioner Winter, I see you wanna contribute, please.
Yeah, you know, as I'm listening to the last part of this conversation, I realize that there are some of us who have been tracking the settlement agreement, you know, the various oversight bodies and so on closely, some for years, and others who are newer to these policy discussions. So I'm wondering, as a commission, when will we develop the schedule for briefings, and will all of those briefings be during these commission meetings, or is there an opportunity to schedule it differently so that, you know, we still have time for discussion and moving the scope of work forward?
Thank you, Commissioner. And Catherine, you want to answer the question, or you want me to ask? You want to answer that question?
can't answer it, but I just want to say that I had the same question and specifically was wondering if there was a way while we're in this organizational phase for those of us who have not tracked it all to be like if there's a bibliography that we could be reading or in some way, get up to speed with those folks who are part of this commission who have been monitoring those meetings and events for many years.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Sophia?
I was just wanting to make one comment that maybe we can do something like that. I haven't been, I have only been new to this as well, but maybe we can put that in a parking lot as we can get some kind of information back to you all. And maybe if some folks have some ideas, they could share those as well. I think that's a good idea. I just wanted to make sure that we put that in the parking lot so we can get back to that one. So I think it'll be helpful for the whole group.
Thank you, Commissioner Sophia. And yes, we need to move on. And that's definitely something that's up to you as commissioners. And it's a good discussion to include that. We need to go to the next item on the agenda. And the next item of the agenda is the reports for the subcommittees that they have working and meeting. I was in one of the committees. And we're gonna talk first, today's updates. We're gonna hear about subcommittee progress. Co-chairs will update the commission on the work of their subcommittees for the benefit of commission members who aren't on that subcommittee, as well as the public. This is a discussion, not decisions. Both subcommittees have documents they're working on, which they would like feedback on from the full commission. After obtaining this feedback, the subcommittees will work on these documents more before finalizing a draft for full commission consideration on a later meeting. No document has been circulated in advance to the full commission for members to read and consider, so no decisions are planned for today's meeting on subcommittee work. Thank you. Report from co-chairs. Co-chairs Monica, Arce, and Faith is reported she's not going to be able to be here, but Monica will update the full commission on the subcommittee's progress.
Yeah, apologies. This is Samir Kanaldi of staff support here. Both Faith and Monica are unable to be here today, and so I'll just briefly give a summary of that. And there's no document to ask for feedback on from them when they let us know that they wouldn't be here. They also let us know that, so we'll need to circulate that another way for feedback. Apologies. This was kind of, I think, two different situations for them. But the Subcommittee on Community Engagement Framework met on January 20th, so one Thursday ago. For the first time. It will meet at least once more, possibly twice more over the course of the rest of the organizational phase, which goes through March. In the first meeting, they discussed the community engagement framework document that they're hoping to develop, and had a lengthy and productive discussion there about what the goal of a community engagement framework was, some of the same values and principles that came up in this conversation, and also the importance of having, although they were meeting chronologically first, having the conversation from today inform their next meeting and their development of the community engagement framework. They then formed small drafting groups to come up with language that takes the discussion and converts it to actual text over the course of the next few weeks, and just to convert the discussion items from the last meeting into text for the new one. And then they also discussed public comment structures. Public comment structures, which include both written public comment and verbal public comment at the meetings. And then they also discussed the possibility of adding in non-written public comment between meetings, specifically the idea of having a voicemail box where folks who may not have access to email or the ability to submit a web form could do that. So there's some homework that is being done with the city to develop if a postal mailbox or a voicemail box can be acquired. And then there's progress in place on written public comment between meetings. And then they are testing out a public comment structure in terms of timing and all of that at the meetings of the Subcommittee on Community Engagement Framework as well. For more, you can follow up with Faith or Monica, as well as check the website, which has the page for their meeting on the 20th, and their future meetings will be posted there as well.
Thank you, Samir. And what about the subcommittee for the bylaws?
Hi, Commissioner Lloyd. I'll be giving the update about the subcommittee for bylaws. Bylaws has met twice so far. We met on Thursday, January 13th, and then again on Tuesday, January 18th. In the first meeting, we discussed general topics related to bylaws. We discussed definitions, concepts, consensus, modified consensus, and our understandings of things like those, and came to some, well, we discussed generally some things that subcommittee members would like to see, and things that we had heard reflected back to us by the full commission around things like consensus and the importance of consensus especially. So after the first meeting, very similar to the other subcommittee, we had volunteers break off into small groups to draft language for particular subsections. For references, they looked at the city's bylaws template and the Charter Commission, the Charter Review Commission bylaws as well. And then at the second meeting, we used a general framing text, which Samir, our staff, was kind enough to incorporate the suggested draft language into that framing document. And then we began discussions of each group's work. And yes, we were able to get through a fair bit of that. We were able to have the discussions around decision-making, especially quorum, voting, subcommittees. We discussed general operating procedures. We discussed membership changes. I'm going through this very fast because we only have about 5 minutes, I think, to do this update. I did send, we did not have time to get to language around officers and communications. So that is something that will be discussed in our next meeting. The goal of the organizational process obviously being to finalize the bylaws and whatever supplemental internal process documents we decide to have. You may have received a draft version of those bylaws from me about 15 minutes before this meeting, and I just want to say I apologize for the late notice, but I figure better late than never in terms of giving people something to look at. There won't really be, obviously there won't be any voting, and I think we don't really necessarily have a ton of time for discussion about any of those items tonight, but the subcommittee is, it's voluntary. If you would like to volunteer, you're welcome still to join. You're welcome to show up. Yeah, and I did just want to ask, I mean, of course, we're performing all of these tasks as with interim agreements. We're performing these, these as interim in our interim roles as co-chairs. So, it's definitely really challenging to decide how you're going to decide things. And I think so far, I just wanted to clarify in these bylaws subcommittee meetings, when we've been talking about things and sort of trying to take the pulse of the group around them, we're just sort of trying to see, do we have the makings of eventually having something like consensus? And on some of these things we do, and on some of them we don't, and on the things where we don't, we're still working on it. So yeah, I just wanted to ask real quick, does anyone have any feedback, questions, concerns, or any feedback for the bylaws group? And also, I just wanted to say, thank you everybody so much for your work on this and for your continued collaboration.
Yes, Commissioner Dan.
Well, I'm on both subcommittees, so I don't really have a question about the bylaws. I had thought that some of the things we came to consensus on in that subcommittee would be voted on tonight, but as I mentioned earlier, we don't have a method to vote yet because we haven't adopted those. So I'm hoping that'll happen in the next meeting, at least the parts that we have agreed on in the subcommittee, so that the whole group can move forward. I also don't know if we're allowed to vote to extend the time on these meetings, because I know we want to respect the agenda and the facilitators, and I know some people are getting paid perhaps by the hour to be here, but it feels like we're getting rushed here at the end. I also wanted to mention that we did actually experiment with public input at the subcommittee meeting of the community engagement one, and I thought that went well. Lastly, the Q&A had a comment in it that I thought was pertinent, that had to do with us talking to attorneys other than the city attorney, and it got dismissed without being answered. And I don't know if we should make audience members act like they're on Jeopardy and make their statement in the form of a question. I mean, I think other things have been responded to, and I think it'd be fair to let people put comments in the Q&A and see if we want to incorporate them into our discussions. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. And yeah, there feels a little rush at the end, but we're gonna have a couple minutes for the parking lot and also any other concerns that you may have. Thank you. And Commissioner Sima, please.
Yeah, just like to express my disappointment for not having time for apologies. That was me. Like to express my frustration for not having the public space for questioning as well.
Yeah, thank you. And you know what? I mean, we have a couple minutes. It's up to you. It's not about, I think I cannot talk about Christine, but for me, when I facilitated, if I needed to stay more here, and I know Christine, we are committed as well. It's not about, for the hour. Some of us were moms and dads, but it's okay, we're here, right? And that's the most important. Commissioner Sophia and then Commissioner Catherine.
Yes, I just wanted to voice my understanding of the group feeling rushed. I think we all feel rushed, but I just appreciate you guys' patience as we try to get through this and keep a schedule. I will let the next person go.
Thank you, Commissioner Sophia. Commissioner Catherine.
Thank you. And I just also want to express my appreciation for the excellent facilitation. And I think one thing that could help in terms of us, being facilitated and assisting in that is for us to understand the time, the approximate time for each discussion so that we can self-monitor a little bit. And also in terms of giving feedback on draft agendas, we could say, oh, that seems a little short, or that seems a little long, or whatever. And perhaps because it seems like we're consistently having the feedback that we would like a chance for public comment, or at least to read some of the public comments into the record. Maybe we can just start to make that a regular part of our agenda, pending further feedback from that community engagement subcommittee. Just like 15 minutes at the end of every meeting that gets reserved for either reading the Q&A that has been offered, which is quite rich tonight, I would say. I'm glad I spent a few minutes looking at it, or to actually have live comment from the folks who are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Catherine. That's a very good. And I'm gonna, Commissioner Sophia, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we are working on having a few minutes at the end for the parking lot recap and possible input from the public. I know it's very difficult because time is very stretched right now for all of us. So we do have Samir is answering Q&A. He's monitoring that for the public. So I will let you know that we are looking through that and we are taking into consideration. So we were doing the best as we can. And I would encourage you all to, communicate amongst each other for some of the things that, if you have questions on, so that we can keep track on our agenda. So we won't have so many comments. It's not that we don't want to hear them. It's like we'd love to hear your comments, but sometimes we just need to find a way to cut things a little shorter so we can have more time for discussion. So thank you all. I appreciate your hard work and patience on this.
Thank you, Commissioner and co-chairs, Sophia. And yeah, that is hard because the discussion was magnificent today, but also takes some time to hear. That's very important for the public and other things. I have some notes in the parking lot, and I know this is recorded, but I'm gonna mention it, and it's something that you can add in the chat or something. Is define local community, and that was from a public comment. Define about the agenda and how this can work the agenda, and you mentioned it again, maybe to include the last 15 minutes. How the decisions of the group are taken, and I think that's what some of the notes I have in the parking lot. But also we don't have to grab, it's 8:04, we don't have to grab at 8:04. If you wanna add more things in the parking lot, even if you wanna add a couple of participants of the public, I'm okay with it, if you are okay, or if you need to go. I mean, I know it's past 8 and that's not ideal. Ideal is that we have enough time for everything in the agenda in the time we set up. But if you want to continue, we can continue here for a little more,
So I would like to say that we do have after office hours right after this. So we can continue, the commission members can continue on that meeting with him. And we just need to honor the time.
Yes.
We really do have to honor the time at the end of the meeting, so people don't feel like nobody wants to leave early, right? Even if it's on time. So we just need to make sure. I saw CMOP say he had to go. So we just need to make sure we do better next time. It's only 5 minutes this time, but we're gonna work hard to make sure we keep time. All right, and I don't want people to feel like they're getting cut off. So there are the office hours afterwards for CMOP. For Samir, and I ask you all to utilize those and the emails to each of the members as appropriate, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Sofía. Thank you. Muchas gracias por todas las personas que están escuchando en español. Gracias por estar aquí. Thank you for being here. And as Commissioner Sophia said, we will do better next time, we promise, and to include everything and to have the times. And it has been a pleasure for me to be here among you. Please continue sending emails, everything that you want to include in the parking lot, and we continue growing and learning. Okay.
Have a good night.